back to Something to Talk About podcast. It is Monday, January 20th, big inauguration day.
Great day to be an American.
We got Donnie T back in office.
Daddy's home.
Did you get a chance to watch any of his inauguration
I did.
speech?
I watched quite a bit of it today when I could. Yeah, it was. I thought the speech was great. I mean,
the speech itself, I thought he touched on a lot of key things why the American people voted for him.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think he's going to try to implement a lot of the stuff that he promised that he would. So.
Yeah. What were some of your big takeaways? I know I got a few notes here on kind of what he went over, and I will say that the only thing that he said that had everybody standing up, which it's got to be awkward for like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris,
it had to be.
All them to be sitting there.
What were they even doing there? Like, they don't really need to be there, do they? Like, I know tradition, but like, man. Yeah, they were just getting beat to shit.
Yeah, that's gotta be a tough day at the office.
It is for sure. They deserved it. I mean, shit. You know.
I mean, he got all 7 swing states. He got the popular vote, and kind of to his credit, he came out and he hit on all the big things that people were talking about and what got him elected.
Yeah.
One of the big things that I kind of took away from it, there was 3 American hostages over in the Middle East, and I've been kind of following along with that. They've been over there, and the thing is, the guy, he has a business over there, and they just capture him because they thought that he was some sort of spy.
Yeah, I haven't followed along with that story too much. I did. I mean, I knew some of it, but I don't know a lot of the details.
So basically, he was stationed over there, and he came back to the States and then went back for his business, and they captured him, and he's been over there in captivity ever since.
How long has he been captured,
I'm wanting to say, it was over 2 years.
Dang. So was it him and was there a man and 2 women?
I think it was 2 guys and maybe a girl.
Yeah.
The third one that they haven't really said much on. There's not really many details out there. But one of the big things, and everybody stood up for it, was he said, the hostages in the Middle East, they got released yesterday, the 19th, and they are on their way home. And that was pretty big news for me, because I've been trying to follow along with it, and first time I've heard about it. I kind of had a feeling it was going to happen before he got to office, because he'd made a few threats, all hell's going to break loose if you don't. But Joe Biden, of course, took credit for it.
Of course.
Kind of, I don't know, like the delusion in office with some people. Joe Biden's been in office for 4 years now, and the guy's been in captivity for, well over a year and a half, 2 years, and couldn't get a deal made to get them home. But one day before Trump comes in office, they get released.
Well, he could get Brittany Reiner home.
For sure.
I mean, that was a lot more publicized than
she was. That was in Russia, right?
Yeah, that was in Russia.
I totally forgot about that whole ordeal. Wasn't it over like a weed pen or something?
Yeah, she had a marijuana pen in her bag, which, I mean, you got to know the laws. You're going to a different country, you should know that stuff. But one of the biggest takeaways, not the biggest takeaway, but one thing I didn't know about too much until he said it, and I did some research on it, was the Panama Canal thing.
Yeah, I'm glad you did some research, because I'd seen where he'd said something. What's going on down there?
Yeah, so basically they're just overcharging us. The last, I think, 2 or 3 years, they have just been going up and up and up and up, and now it's getting to where it's just ridiculous. And, United States paid to have the Panama Canal built. And, of course, as a country, they're going to have to make something on it, but it has just went up exponentially, and they took another jump. So they said what they were raising the price for was because they've had there's been some drought, so the water levels went down, so they haven't been able to let as many ships go through. So I think that I'd seen they were letting I'm going to say something like 35 ships through a day or something like that, and then it dropped down to 21 because something about the way that they got to build the water up to You know how the Panama Canal works?
Yep, yep.
They got to do it in stages, kind of like when you cross a dam. Mm-hmm. So with less water, they can only let so many ships through. So they raised, that was last year, and they raised the price. They said because of not as many numbers of ships going through. Well, then I guess that was in 2022. In 2023, they raised it again, and then they started letting the same amount of ships go through, and then they still kept the price high. Well, now there's supposed to be another price hike in 2024. So,
and wasn't there when that was getting built, wasn't there like 38,000 Americans that were killed building that?
I think it's 28 is what I think it was. Yeah.
And they're raising the prices for the U.S. like the Navy and everything, correct? Like all ships
everything
going through there.
Yeah.
So who's going to protect that if something somebody tries to take that over? Who's going to be the country that protects that?
I don't know. The bad thing about it is a lot of people don't know, but China runs both of the ports on each end of the Panama Canal.
Well, that makes sense.
China owns and runs the ports on each end of the canal. But Panama says that it is ran by Panama, that China has nothing to do with it. 3/4 of the revenue that comes off of people going through the Panama Canal is from the United States. China has like 1/4 of it. So, I mean, they do send some ships through, but most of it is American ships. And we're the ones getting screwed by them. I think I read somewhere it was like $5 million a day is what we're paying to use it.
Holy cow! Yeah, I didn't know it was that much.
Yeah,
I guess that's why he was talking about the Panama Canal being the American Canal or something like that.
Yeah, well,
he's going to take it back.
Yeah, he said he was going to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
Yep.
How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I haven't really read too much into it. I think he just says a lot of wild shit. Kind of like the Canada being the 51st state.
Yeah. But that was in his inauguration speech. So I mean, that should be pretty serious.
Yeah, that was for sure in the speech. But I don't know. What are you going to do? Just go down there and take it?
And who's going? Are we changing the name for Americans? Like, does that mean Europe's going to start calling it that? Or like,
yeah, no joke.
How do you change something like that?
I think there's a way that everybody can figure out a better price on things. I really hope. He talked about Doge. I really hope that we kind of see how much money is going into a lot of these things, especially like the Gulf of Mexico deal. Mm-hmm. And seeing how much we're getting screwed on the back end out of all of this.
I think it's a big thing, and the Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy are kind of heading that deal. And from what I've heard from them so far, they've already found like all kinds of stuff. Elon said, however bad you think it is, it's worse.
Well, honestly, that doesn't surprise me because, if you can afford to send billions of dollars to these other countries and we've got homeless people here and they don't want to take care of the U.S. citizens, there's a lot of shit that's going wrong with the government spending and where our tax dollars are going, as U.S. citizens. It doesn't make any sense to me why we're the ones always getting the shaft and we're funding all these people to be in office and supposed to be doing what's in our best interests. It hasn't been like that. No, it hadn't been that way for a long time.
Making the rich richer, filling their pocketbooks is what they're doing. I mean,
it's like, you make $100 and some $1,000 a year in a government position, but your net worth's $20-40 million. Like what the
doesn't add up. They get a lot of money from appearances and stuff, but I don't know. I think the Gulf of America thing, I think, is just dumb. I don't understand it. Like, why would the thing I don't like about it is it's been that forever, and I feel like he's only wanting to change that just to say a big fuck you to Mexico. Do we really need to be doing that?
Well, I mean, he already said he came out and said that the cartel's now going to be considered, domestic terrorists.
Yeah.
We were just talking about possibly.
I think that. I mean, he might be right there. Like, I feel okay about that.
Yeah, it's they're the root cause of a lot of the fentanyl and stuff coming
Exactly.
over that's killing a lot of
I mean,
U.S.
if
citizens.
you think about how many people fentanyl's killed, it is terrorism. If you think about it that way,
it really is.
damn sure is. I mean, the fentanyl is like the most dangerous drug that has been around for a long time. If you look at the number that have died from that compared to even like heroin and stuff, it's way worse.
And you hear these stories about, the fentanyl is so bad that, like, say you pick up $1 at the gas station and it's got some of it on it, you're going to end up in the hospital.
Yeah, I heard about a story in a prison where somebody had some fentanyl and they were all grouped up in a certain area. There's a bunch of prisoners and a few guards, and they basically just took it up in the air and threw it up in the air, and the powder got on a bunch of people and killed a bunch of people. Like, that's how dangerous it is. Touches your skin. It can go into your skin and kill you.
My question is, who created fentanyl, and why the hell would, I guess if they're lacing it in people's Coke or whatever that they're wanting to.
Well, they're putting it even like, I know there's been college kids that have just like tried to get some Adderall because they're trying to stay up to study and stuff for finals or whatever. They take, I'm going to take a Adderall to help out a little bit, just one time, and then it be laced with fentanyl and it kills them.
Something's got to be done about it. Luckily, we're not very close to the border. I'm sure if we were down there closer, we would see a lot more of it.
I've been to Mexico a bunch of times, and there's the crazy thing about Mexico, there's some places in Mexico that looks like a postcard. It's just beautiful. And then there's certain places that are as bad as you could think of.
Probably all the resorts that. Is it true that the cartel pretty much owns a lot of these resorts?
That's what I've heard, yeah.
That's what I've heard for years.
They basically run things in Mexico.
And we were talking about we're going to be going on a golf trip soon, and I'd made the comment about going to Mexico, and we were both like, yeah, with the cartel now considered domestic terrorists, probably not a good idea to go to Mexico if you're a U.S.
Stay out of there
citizen.
for a little bit, see how this kind of breaks down. But I mean, if he just declared them domestic terrorists, they run things in Mexico. Is that like going to war with Mexico?
I know he's in his speech, he said that we're sending troops to the border. We're sending U.S. troops to the border to get it shut down. He said he's bringing back his policy, the stay in Mexico policy. He's got a long list of stuff that he was talking about. What did you think about, we were just talking about the U.S. military. What did you think about him saying that, there's a lot of military people that got put on leave because they didn't take the mandated COVID vaccine, and he said that he's going to reinstate them with full back pay. Every single one of them.
That was one of the things everybody stood up for. I mean,
everybody except the people on his left side, our right side on the screen, they didn't stand up for it. It's
hard to argue the facts of what we know about COVID today compared to what we knew about COVID in 2020 when it happened. It makes perfect sense to me, and I think to a lot of Americans it's going to. Even your Democrats are going to probably agree with a lot of it. How can you think that back pay to our servicemen and women is a bad thing? I mean, I think it's great. I love it.
I thought it was great too. I didn't even realize, which it's been so long ago since, I guess, the COVID outbreak 2020. What a wild time that was. We're going to look back years ago, years from now and be like, what in the fuck happened?
Exactly.
And I didn't realize that they got put on mandatory leave if they didn't take it.
Yep. I remember them talking about it, but I actually didn't know that happened.
I didn't either. That's why I was kind of shocked with it.
I wonder what the number is, if that's just a very small percentage of it or if there was a lot of people like that. I'm
not too sure, and how many people probably just complied and just said the hell with it.
A lot of them.
There was going to be a lot of people that did. And it's just one of those things. I feel like it's your choice. I'm not knocking anybody who got it or who didn't get it. It's your choice what you put in your body.
No, I mean, and I probably, if I would have been older, I probably would have got the first one just because of what everybody was saying about it. If I was older, I probably would have, but I'm glad I didn't now.
Yeah, it was just it was just kind of crazy how they put out a vaccine, which I know technology and stuff has gotten and our medicine has gotten to a point where we're, I guess, pretty efficient on what we can do. But 3 months rolling out a vaccine, that's typically, it takes 2 to 3 years.
It's crazy. I mean, I know that they wanted to do. They thought they were doing the right thing by trying to get it stopped, the pandemic stopped, because it was, a lot of people was losing their jobs and shutting down businesses and stuff. So they were trying to get it back to get the economy back going again, but it was all kind of a hoax, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely people that
a lot of people died
from it,
but there was a lot of people that died from the flu too.
Correct. Yeah, I think for me, back to the.
I'm not saying it's the flu. I'm not saying that. It was a terrible situation, but what was the death rate was like 0.01% or something.
Yeah,
like
I'm not
1 in 1,000.
I'm not too sure what the death rate was. I just know that it was a weird time. Everybody felt isolated. It was great for the game of golf. Golf picked up big time because you could be out there social distancing. I just think it was just such a weird time on how people reacted to it. And
I don't think we've never experienced anything like that
have.
as a country, and I think we just didn't know how to handle it. I think if it's something like this happens again, we'll learn from hopefully the mistakes we made.
I just don't like how a bunch of small businesses went out of business.
It's scary.
But Walmart and everybody else stayed open.
Yeah, and it's weird too because there was a lot of businesses that made more money during COVID than they've ever made in their life.
Yeah, I mean, just depending on kind of what niche market you were in at that point. But if you were just a small operation, like a
restaurant in the middle of the city.
Yep, restaurants were the ones that got smoked the worst. But back to off that tangent, back to the
kind of got lost there.
Inauguration. So he declared a national emergency at the southern border, which we were talking about. He said that they are going to. He said millions and millions of criminal aliens were getting returned to where they came from.
Yeah.
He also said
that's going to be. I feel like that's going to be awful hard to do.
It is. What's that guy's name for ICE that took over for that? I can't remember his name, but apparently he's worked with the border and illegal aliens for a long, long time and was retired. However, he said, when Trump calls and says he wants you to be, the next director of ICE or whatever it is, you got to answer that call. There's no way you can turn that down. And I know he's been out doing a bunch of interviews talking about one of the big topics with it is
he's been all over the place.
I can't for the life of me remember his name
either.
But he's been on a lot of different media outlets talking about, what he's going to do. Hopefully he can get the funding to do it. But they've all been talking about, separation of family. And he was like, he's pretty much said, if the family doesn't want to go and they aren't criminals, they can stay here. But the person who is a criminal and who is over here illegally, they're going. So the separation of family, I don't think he's really too concerned about it. They can all go or just one of them.
Well, one of the things that Trump said that was one of the things that I liked the most was he said, we're going to start taking America first again. Yep. America's going to come first. And that is kind of, the separation of the families, it's kind of scary. It's terrible. And I'm not even sure how I feel about it. Because if you can't see both sides of that coin, then there's something wrong with you. So it is sad, but at the same time, it's costing Americans a lot of money. It's costing Americans a lot of jobs.
Lots of jobs.
So I don't really know how I feel about that situation. I hate separating anybody, but America needs to come first, I think.
And America hasn't come first in a long time.
And that's why we've gotten to the situation we're in right now.
You're exactly right. Another thing that he brought up was he's doing a national energy emergency, and he followed that with he's going to drill, baby, drill.
Drill, baby, drill.
We've been hearing that for a long time, which whenever Joe Biden won, the Keystone Pipeline, I believe, is a pipeline that was set to start being built
Yep.
and got shut down. That cost a lot of jobs and a lot of money for the economy for sure. So, I mean, he's been all for oil and any sort of gas that we can do to try to make money in America and more or less make America, more energy independent for itself. And I'm totally on board with that. There's no reason that we should have to buy oil. I know we have our reserves. If we can pump it ourselves and make money off of it, and I know even if we got to buy some oil from other countries to kind of keep everybody's economy afloat, there's no reason that we should not have our own energy independence when we have it.
Yeah, we
have
should,
the
and we have a lot of resources for it. I think that there's not really a way to get away from that right now. To drill for oil, I mean, we're just not ready to go to any kind of solar or wind energy or not have gas powered vehicles. The technology just isn't there to go electric yet.
Yeah, and I think the wind energy, you talk to a lot of experts and stuff on it. That might be the biggest, government spending hoax we've ever seen in our lifetime, with how they say that they're converting the wind energy, but in return, they're still spending all the money, on this Green New Deal. They're still spending money and using the oil and gas to power everything. So it's like, okay, you're saying it's this Green New Deal, but really in the long run, you're actually creating more carbon.
Yeah, they said that they said they don't even cover the carbon footprint to make them.
Yep.
So they're basically a wash, and I think a lot of people are seeing that now. I think they're going to get away from wind, at least for right now. Solar is great, but just the batteries and the solar panels just aren't there yet to be able to do what we need to do. Same way with the electric cars and the batteries. Sure, they can work, but there's just not the infrastructure there for it yet. I mean, I would love to see it go that direction. If we can get the technology up to date to where it's possible to do that kind of thing, hopefully in the future, anytime you can go more green, I mean, there's only so much oil that we're ever going to get. Mm-hmm. It is going to run out. So we need to have an option. But it's got to be an option to where it's feasible. And right now it's just not. We're gonna have to drill. I mean, that's just what we need to do. I mean, if you see all the money that Saudi Arabia is making right now, it's a shit country, but they got oil, so they're rich. Yeah. That country, it's not the greatest place to live, in the desert like it is, but they got oil, so they're rich, and people see them making this kind of money off of it. Like, what could the United States do with that?
Well, and it's going to benefit Canada as well,
create more jobs.
And I just think that if you have the opportunity to be independent on yourself, why not? Even if, whenever I say that, I also mean, if something happens and we have that sort of infrastructure where we can survive without it from somebody else, mm-hmm. Why not be set up and be in a position like that? You can still buy from other countries to keep everybody else's economy afloat because everybody kind of works together.
Yeah.
I think there's a way to do both.
Yeah, I think that what we need to do is, we need to be working to get the technology where it needs to be, to where it's going to be good enough that we can switch over, but we're not that far away from it. There's got to be, I know there's a ton of oil here in the United States. Like, we should be able to run off that for a long, long time. We should be able to figure that out by then. By the time we run out, I mean, way before we're going to run out.
Yeah, for sure. We got to have a backup plan.
Yeah, because we're not that far away from it. We're pretty close.
I think you're right. One of the quotes that I also like from Trump's inauguration speech was, he said, "Instead of taxing citizens to enrich other countries, we will tariff and tax foreign countries to enrich our citizens." Now, I don't know what exactly that means. We obviously have our non-professional opinions, but anytime you have some. There's a lot of talk and speculation on the tariffs. What did it do for the economy back whenever he started tariffing, China and everything?
Well, he said America made a lot of money off of it, is what Trump claims. I mean, I don't know.
And I'm not smart enough to know, but I know whenever we did have tariffs, the economy was a hell of a lot better.
Economy was banging before COVID hit.
100%.
Yeah, we were doing great.
I wish it was like that now. And hopefully we can get back to that in a couple years. And, you have a lot of people online talking about Trump's made all these promises. And today, was the inauguration day. And there was a few posts out there saying, well, went to the store today to get my $1.78 gas, and it wasn't there yet. You got to give somebody time to get back to, try to straighten out this clusterfuck that we've had for the past 4 years.
Yeah, it's going to take time too. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but I think that by the end of his term, I have high hopes for this.
I really do too.
His term here, I think that he's got the right people in the right positions. He's got great ideas of ways to move the country forward. I feel great about as far as economy-wise in the future and him setting America up to whenever whoever comes behind him can have success too. Mm-hmm. He said, hopefully, he says it's the start of the golden age of the United States again. We'll see if that happens. I think he's going to do great with the economy. I just hope that there isn't a bunch of decisive, dividing people into certain cliques and alienating us from different countries. I don't know how the tariffs would affect that. I feel like it could be a bad thing. We definitely do not need another war. We don't want to go to war with China and Russia. And in the past, he's been really good about not getting us into wars and keeping us from wars. But he could say the wrong things too. He doesn't always think before he talks. And if he says the wrong thing to the wrong person, a few words could kill a lot of Americans.
Yeah. And, there was one thing that he said, as a president, his legacy, he wants to be known as a peacemaker and unifier.
Yeah,
which I thought was really good that he put in his speech. And,
he said he wants America to be colorblind. I mean, it's great,
Yeah, those are all great things. Let's get to where we aren't trying to divide everybody. And back to, when Biden got elected, there's a lot of people that weren't happy about it, but he was a president. You can't, and my issue with a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that feel this way, when there is an elected official, how do you wish them bad that you want them to fail? If they fail, they're failing you as a country.
America's failing.
And then, Biden got elected. I obviously would not want him to do something bad or put the country in a spot where we don't need it to be. And when Trump gets elected, how can you feel that way? How do you come out and just say, well, I wish him the worst?
Yeah, them kind of people is what is wrong with America right there. They thought that Biden, at the end of Trump's term, they thought that he was dividing America. So you put Biden in there, who's supposedly going to bring us all back together, and I'm not going to say he failed at that, because he did such a shitty job that he did kind of bring us together all in one movement to get him the hell out of there.
Yeah, I mean, what we've seen the past 4 years as a leader, I mean, whenever I think of a leader, I think of somebody that looks out for what's in the best interest of something, somebody that can communicate it. Mm-hmm. Dude can't speak a lick to he's nobody.
Who the hell's been even running the country the last 2 years? It's scary. I'm glad it's over with.
Yeah.
Because it was scary.
I don't know. I hope some answers come out, kind of what the hell happened and how, he was in such a decline that he couldn't even talk or walk around. I understand you trip a couple times going up Air Force One, but there was There's a montage out there of how many times he tripped going up the stairs on Air Force One. How can you look at that and say that's a leader?
There is no company in America that's going to hire him as their CEO.
Not
At
one.
his age, at his capacity, not one. And he's running the biggest country on planet Earth.
Yes.
It makes no sense.
I have no idea. I honestly think there's a lot of people in office with that administration that should be answering a lot of questions. You know, there was talks of it online with different news organizations on how bad the decline was. Whenever he had his debate with Trump, that opened a lot of people's eyes. Like, what in the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know if they were just throwing him out there hoping for the best, or they were hoping for him to fail so they could move on to Kamala or somebody else. But I mean,
And
obviously
I'd be
a terrible pick with going with Kamala.
And I'd be saying the same thing. If Trump was up there fumbling and mumbling like that, what business do you have being the president of the United States?
Exactly, he'd had none. And it's not. I mean, it's not like Trump's a young guy either.
No. You know, he always brings up, like, in the debate, how do you start bringing up golf handicaps and playing around? What a time to be alive. It's been an absolute shit show here in this country the past 4 years. And the thing is, like, you turn on something on the news and it could be so out there that you're like, fuck, it don't faze me anymore.
There's nothing like it literally could pop on there tomorrow that, you know, we have found purple aliens living at the White House. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, it's gotten comical.
It really has. And what does that do to, like, you know, how do people view the country, the state that it's been in the past 4 years?
It's embarrassing.
For sure it is.
The last 4 years, it has been embarrassing to be an American.
There's no statesmanship. You can't. Whenever a lot of people didn't like Barack Obama as a president, but he was by far one of the best public speakers we've ever had.
Yeah, I
as
don't
a
hate him.
president, I thought he was as presidential that you can be, as far as getting up and speaking to Americans, you know, other, you know, countries. I thought him as a speaker, he's got to be at the top.
Yeah.
And that's what you got to have as a president. He's got to be able to come out and speak to, you know, not just the American people, but other countries.
Yeah, and I don't think that, you know, like you said, him speaking to other countries and stuff, he wasn't going to let people just, you know, walk all over him. You felt secure at least in America's armed forces and having him at their back. Like, you didn't feel bad about it. Like with Biden, you don't want him in a meeting with Putin.
No.
God, could you imagine?
I don't think they did speak.
Probably not.
I'm pretty sure on the Tucker Carlson deal,
Whoever had Biden on a leash, they wouldn't let him. I guarantee it.
yeah, what a wild 4 years this has been. I'm kind of glad that we're past the COVID era and the Biden era, quite frankly. I don't know what Kamala would have been like as a president. It's kind of weird now that it kind of seems like a lot of people just turned their back on her.
Yeah.
You know, you see some clips. You know, you had Barack Obama at was it President Carter's funeral?
Yeah,
I believe
him and
so.
Trump were
Him
talking.
and Trump were talking.
She was over there pouting.
Yeah. So it's what a wild 4 years it's been.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Where we're at, and you know, having a rural life and stuff, we're gonna lean red. I mean, that's how it is around here. Most people do. I'm not saying everybody does, but most people do.
The crazy thing is, it hasn't always been that way.
No, it hasn't. But as far as like, if we had a Democrat president in there that was doing the good things, like, I'd be all for it. Like, I don't give a shit what you are.
For sure. And I do think Biden, the Build Back Better, we are seeing that in rural areas because they're putting in a lot of these overpasses and stuff, like down in Troy, you know, different areas like that. You know, he did a few good things, but not very many.
No.
I mean,
You're just your normal person walking down the street. If you ask him what he did good, most of them can't even tell you anything.
for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I just think there's a lot of hope and everything in the air right now with
Yeah,
the new administration coming in.
I'd kind of like to. I'd like to know what like the temperature is, and say not Los Angeles because of the wildfires, but just in your more liberal cities today after the inauguration. When they watched it, like here, you talk to people and everybody's excited. Like everybody is pumped up. They're ready for the next 4 years. They think our future looks good. They're happy with the future outlook. I wonder what they're feeling in your liberal cities if they're pissed off and bummed out, or if they're kind of maybe they have this back a little bit more this term than they did last term.
Well, and I think there's
maybe on the popular
even the
vote,
past,
so
even the past few months ago, they've had city council meetings, and there's been a lot of people on these Democratic mayors and governors.
I've seen the mayor of New York was kind of starting to back some of the stuff.
Yep, New York and even Chicago.
Oh well, they got all these illegal immigrants coming in there and just destroying their cities.
Well, yeah, and taking jobs and everything else.
Stealing jobs, costing them money.
Yeah, I don't know. The
homeless is just insane.
We obviously hope that these illegal immigrants and all that take them back to their country, and if they want to come over here legally, they got to go through the process. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that the process is great. There's obviously some things that you can always get better on. I haven't really
expedite the process a little bit from what I'm hearing. It just takes too long and too expensive.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that there's a lot of hope, and if we can get the economy back going just even a little bit, a lot of people are going to be happy about it.
What happens if this next 4 years goes great? Then what happens? Or do you think that the people are going to start leaning more Republican a lot more, or do you think your crazy Democrats are probably going to say, well, Biden built it all up. Trump just got lucky because he came in after him.
Yeah, I don't know.
Time will tell. If it goes bad, then what?
And then I have no idea. The independents are going to have to start coming out of the woodwork.
If it goes bad, it's definitely not a good look for America. We're definitely on the decline.
For sure. And I just really hope that we can get it turned around. I hope
we're at a pivotal point here for America's future. This has to go good. We have to make this work. And that's why your Democratic liberals, they got to get behind Trump. Even if you don't like him, you got to get behind him. You can't hope him bad things. You can't wish him bad juju because it's just hurting you. And we've already been hurt enough. We got to figure some of this shit out. I wish you would have talked more about doing something about the aid to the hurricane victims, the wildfires. There's several natural disasters lately that have just destroyed a lot of towns and homes and people's lives. And let's help them people out.
Well, and I think FEMA's got to be held accountable too as a government program, not having any money to aid.
Hopefully DOJ will help with that too.
And that's what I'm kind of thinking.
Yeah, I wonder how much they actually get a year.
I don't know the number. I seen it. I was reading up on it, of course, whenever everything went down. It's definitely been a few months ago, but I know it's a lot of money that FEMA gets, and no idea where it went. But whenever you have a natural disaster and they pretty much say we can't help you, it's like, well, that was your job to be there to help people, and
what are you
had
doing
nothing.
There?
Yeah. So I hope a lot of the answers come out as to kind of what's taken place over the past 4 years, because it seems like it's been a clusterfuck.
Yeah, we're not in a great place. I know. One thing is for sure. Even if the economy doesn't get better, we look stronger.
Yeah, and I think it is good to have somebody in there that can negotiate with other countries, that kind of has a backbone. It didn't seem like, kind of seemed like Biden would just kind of roll over and kind of take whatever somebody would say. I think it is nice to have somebody in there with a backbone. And I also think it helps that somebody's in there with a business mindset that can hopefully restart this economy and kind of get things going back to the way they should be, and that we desperately hope they do.
Hopefully in the next week or so, we'll kind of hear a little bit more about what his plans is to hopefully stop this war over in Ukraine between them and Russia, and try to get this deal with Israel and them kind of controlled too.
I mean, it's 2025. There's no reason to have any wars.
No.
There's no reason.
We're more connected as a society than we've ever been.
Yeah, with social media.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you can get on your phone and contact somebody halfway across the world immediately.
With just a few clicks of the button.
Yeah, it's not like you got to wait on the damn newspaper to get to your house and then you trust in what one editor wrote. There's plenty of sources out there to figure out what's going on in the world.
Speaking of that,
and hopefully, with being more connected, it kind of teaches people, hey, we are kind of just one people.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right, and kind of an example of that is a few years ago, I'd met a couple girls from Israel that they were in Iowa. We were up there at a job site. This has been several years ago, probably closer to 8-9 years now. And whenever all that stuff with Israel and Hamas, all that stuff went down, I messaged one of them, and they sent me like a voice message back saying kind of what's going on. And I mean, just a click of a button, and you can talk to somebody in a whole nother country, even if you haven't talked to them in 10 years.
Yeah, you don't have to believe what you're reading online. You can get the information straight from the horse's mouth. They can tell you exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, and she said that she even knew people that were killed during the attack.
Oh, man.
Because even over there, like, I think here in the United States, we have, like, all of our states, if you look at it, are giant. Like, we have big area of ground. Like, even Missouri is a big state. Like, if you're going to drive all the way across you're going to be spending some hours driving.
It takes, 6 hours to get from top to bottom?
Probably. And over there, it's not very far. They're not very far from each other. Hour and a half, you can be in a whole nother country. Mm-hmm. So I think having that kind of perspective a little bit on how close everything is over there, it's not very big. There's not very many just like California's got a bigger GDP than most countries do, and it's just one state.
Yeah, the United States has a lot of different terrains and places. California is, it's basically a different country than Missouri.
Oh, for sure it is. From every point of view.
Yeah, it's just, we're connected as one people. And it'd be great if we could get that globe wide. If we could all be one people under, on the whole globe. What would be better than that? Like that's the ideal situation, right?
Yeah. I mean, just wars have got to stop.
And with the way we're connected right now, exactly, there's no reason for it.
Especially everybody knows that if there's a nuclear war, Earth is gone. Like, everybody's dead.
Yep.
And with having that technology and being able to do that, there's just no room for it. And then, they pass a deal that, you're supposed to get rid of all your nuclear weapons, and some of the countries got rid of all theirs, and of course there was a few that still kept a bunch. Like, it just doesn't make any sense why we have to have those capabilities.
Yeah, the technology's there, and it's kind of like if you build it, they'll come type things. Like if it's there, then people are going to have it. It'd be the best for everybody if we could just get them all destroyed, but that's going to be an awful hard thing to do because you're going to have countries that hide it even.
Yeah. Speaking of kind of California, we're on that topic. Have you looked and been watching? I'm sure you have seen a bunch of the wildfires and everything going out there, especially the one that ripped through Palisade.
Yeah, it's scary. I mean, it is basically, you see the overhead footage of those places and stuff. It's like a bomb hit out there.
Yeah, I mean, it literally looks like an apocalypse.
It's like you evacuated the town and then dropped a bomb on it. There's nothing left. And the people was lucky enough that their house is saved, what the hell good does it do? There's nothing there. You don't have schools. You don't have grocery stores. You don't have gas stations. Like, there's nothing there.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot to talk about, kind of what led up to it, kind of everything that's gone on with it. But we're going to take a quick break. So the California wildfires have been absolutely devastating. They, as of right now, I know currently there's like 275 billion in damages,
Whoa.
and that's with, I think it's factoring in not only structures as far as like houses, garages, and stuff like that, roadways.
Now, I wonder what it does to roadways. Like, does it destroy roadways at all?
I
Or
don't.
is this
I don't know.
supposed to
Maybe a few different things that I guess could be affected by it. But I know it's taken into account like the economy and stuff too, because I mean it's pretty much been put on a hold
Yeah.
in that county. What are your thoughts? I'm sure you've done some research on it.
I mean, you see it and it's just so sad. And we got to help these people out somehow. I mean, that is the reason that we have a government, is for situations just like this. Got to figure out a way to help them. You know, I don't know what you do about all these people who didn't have any kind of home insurance that lost all their houses. I seen somewhere it was like 67% of houses weren't insured in that area. Then there was, I think just in Palisades, there was like 8,000 structures gone that had burned up.
Yeah, I think there's a total of 12,000 as of right now structures that are either destroyed or damaged. Over 300,000 people were on emergency evacuation orders. And as of right now, I know they're still searching for people, but there's at least 25 people dead.
Yeah, and you're right. There is 25 dead already, but I'd read somewhere else there was like 20 or 30 that were unaccounted for.
Yep, they're
that
still
they
looking.
Can't find.
Yeah, they're still looking for
So
people.
I mean, there's a good. You might find some of them, but there's a good chance that 25 number is going to go up by quite a bit. It's scary. You know, maybe this is another one of them deals, kind of like the COVID thing, that we have a situation like this. Maybe we'll learn from it. There'll be better policies put in order so stuff like this doesn't happen. You know, I think everybody's seen the viral thing that Joe Rogan had. You know, he was talking about that this was going to happen in Los Angeles. It was inevitable, and then it ended up coming true. It's what he had talked to a fire marshal, and the fire marshal had said that it was going to happen eventually, and then, you know, it happened pretty quickly after that.
Yeah,
But he said it just took the right thing getting started in a fire and the right winds, and shit, them winds were getting up 100 mile an hour some places there.
and imagine with it being dry on how fast that could spread a fire.
So they said they had a wet winter, so I guess everything grew really well, and then they've had drought 2 years in a row. So after it, you know, everything dries up, there's just more tinder there to start a fire. Then you add the right wind to that situation, that will build the fire even more. And this is the time of year that it's going to happen, because you have the warm air coming in off the ocean and then the cold air meeting it at the coastline, and that's when you get them high winds, which cause the fires to spread so rapidly.
Yeah, and I don't think it's something that they haven't seen before with the winds, you know, because they live there. You know, they've seen it a time or two. I think a lot of it, I just want to read something real quick. I pulled this off the CBS News. So a month before the wildfires in LA, the fire chief warned that $17.6 million cut in funding would hamper the emergency response. And just a few days ago, the Los Angeles mayor, Karen Bass, came out and said that the budget cuts did not impact the department's ability to handle the ongoing fires.
Yeah, and I seen where they had they'd raised the amount of money that was going for the homeless there in Los Angeles. Have they fixed the homeless problem in Los Angeles?
No, and
I mean, you could have saved so many not only people's lives, but livelihoods and homes.
yeah, and they were getting ready to, I think a few months from now, it was on the table with, you know, the governor, Gavin Newsom. They were going to start cutting even more off of the fire department in different places on their funding as well from the state level. So I had read that like back in 2014, there was something that got passed for a lot of these new wells to be put in or different places to store water.
Aquifers.
Yep, and none of them have been done, and of course, none of them have water in it. There's obviously, if you've been reading anything on it, there's there's the old quote that Trump said to Gavin Newsom back when he was in office that, pretty much told him that if he doesn't get water sources from the north flowing down and get some sort of water system hooked up, that something's going to happen and you're not going to have enough water. And there's been a lot of people that have come out and said, fire department show up, hook up to fire hydrant, and there's nothing.
Yep, crickets.
And I guess there was a law passed that, up north, I guess there's a way that the water could run to California, and they rerouted it to I guess that'd be the Pacific Ocean over there, all over what was that fish called? A delta smelt.
Yeah, smelt.
That they've already claimed as extinct.
Yeah, I've never even heard of a smelt before this.
I hadn't either.
So,
hindsight 2020, there was a lot of shit that could have been done to kind of help this. I understand, these fires, if you get the perfect mix of wind and, the drought, there's not very much you can do. They're gonna hammer.
it's common. I mean,
But-
in that part of the country, it's common.
There are some things that you can do to try to either help prevent it or
Yeah.
try to help in a worst case scenario, which I think a lot of people should be planning
There
for.
was something about they did something where they brush hog around a certain area to kind of stop the fires from building, and I guess that wasn't being done either.
Yeah, there was a lot of laws passed, and we're going to get back to your 67% of the homes not being insured. There was a lot of regulations passed that they used to have, I don't know how many years ago that this got passed, but it was required that underbrush and everything had to be clear. And those regulations, you didn't have to follow them. And there was a lot of homeowners that were pissed off about it because they could see the writing on the wall. And, just from an insurance kind of, just kind of me with being in the insurance industry a little bit, if I'm an insurance company and I'm trying to be profitable, which I don't care what insurance company you look at that you Google, they all want to be profitable. They're trying to expose any risk and shed any risk to make them money. And they'll cancel anybody and everybody. If you aren't making them money and you've had a bunch of losses, they're going to cancel you. That's just the way insurance companies have gotten, especially here in the past 4 or 5 years. If I seen a regulation that was changed like that, or a law that people were no longer having to take care of their property as far as removing any underbrush to try to prevent a fire when you're in a fire zone where most likely fires are going to occur at some point, why in the hell would I be in that area in the first place? I know State Farm's catching a lot of heat because they had a bunch of the houses insured and they dropped them. But if you look at State Farm, why do they have to be there? They're the ones catching the heat. Why do they have to be there when regulations and their risk is going up? And California came back and told them they couldn't do any rate increase on any of their policies.
Well, State Farm wasn't the only insurance that pulled insurance.
There was
though.
a bunch.
State Farm is just a big insurance company. So
I mean, Allstate, I don't know if American Family was there, but I know Allstate was another big one. They left too.
it makes perfect sense. I mean, it sucks, but it's kind of the same. California is almost like a worse version of the United States right now. Everybody's leaving California. I mean, I don't know if you've seen where Mark Zuckerberg, he just came out and he said that he's still going to start moving his stuff to Texas. He's moving some of his companies down into Texas. How many other companies have left California?
There's been a
Taxes
bunch.
are so high. It's dangerous. The homeless are everywhere. It's sad because I know there's a lot of great places in California, and you get outside the city, and it's just like any other rural area. The cities just run the state of California. It sucks, but they kind of made their own bed.
Yeah, and they're not doing anything to try and change it. You know, a lot of these people, Elon Musk left, Joe Rogan left, Patrick Bet-David with Valuetainment, you know, he left. And I'd actually heard somewhere, it might have been PBD, that said California is the only state in the United States in the past 10 years that has a negative growth in population. It's went down like 1.2 million over the past 10 years.
Makes perfect sense. I mean, and that's kind of their ideals are kind of the same reason why Trump has got back in office. The people are standing up to that throughout the rest of the country and be like, this stuff isn't working. We're going to go back to common sense laws, common sense practices. California just haven't caught up yet, and they're going to have to, or they're not going to have anything left.
Well, I know one thing. The mayor, Karen Bass, and the governor, Gavin Newsom, is he the governor? Yeah, he's the governor. Mm-hmm. They both are on the hot seat right now. There's people calling for them to resign immediately.
Did you see him talking about the fires and stuff, and then they started like dancing around and stuff?
Real weird.
What the fuck? What is that?
Yeah, and he was talking about, you know, LA 2.0. It's like, dude, everybody just lost everything. And I know you're trying to be positive, but you're not doing or saying the things that you should be as a governor.
If you would have done the right things and put the right people and practices in order, this would have never happened.
Well, and Karen Bass, whenever
or maybe not helping this to the same scale, maybe it would have happened on a smaller scale.
Yeah, and Karen Bass, you know, she was in Uganda.
Yeah.
Whenever all of it like really started hitting the news, she was gone.
Yeah.
And there was an interview. I'm going to try to put it up on the video. A reporter came up and asked her why she was in Uganda and what she's going to do to try to help the people of Los Angeles. And she didn't say anything. Like, she literally said nothing. She just looked at her. And then finally her vehicle pulled up and she left. Like, didn't have anything to say at all. Couldn't say that, you know, I'm going to talk to my team. We'll release a statement. You know, nothing. Absolutely nothing. What kind of mayor leader is that?
And you know, just trying to say the right things to be able to get reelected and get her, you know, salary.
I think that's pretty much shot at this point. You got, whenever you have celebrities coming out of the woodwork calling for change in, you know, the state of California and LA, that's when you know shit has gone wrong.
Yeah. And
like there was a Kardashian that came out and said, you know, something the other day.
Hopefully people start standing up there too and get that state back to where it used to be, because like I said, a lot of great places in California, a lot of great people. Nobody wants to see it fail.
Well, and the bad thing is you don't want a natural disaster like this to get political, but you have to look at what the laws and regulations that these mayors and governors have passed, and it's like some of this could have been prevented. You know, I don't know if they do. I know they did used to do, you know, controlled burns and stuff out there. I don't know. You know, I don't live in the state, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say from, you know, our perspective of it. There's probably a lot of things that you come up with, the things that should have been changed, but, you know, we're kind of away from the whole situation. So, you know, it is scary. I guess there's definitely ways that things could have been fixed, and that's what a lot of people are seeing. And maybe this will wake people up. Maybe this is a thing to be like, hey,
we have to get water from the north to, you know, LA and California.
Yeah, and there's certain situations where you have to weigh out what's good for the environment and for good for people. You know, we have to put people first. Not saying that there shouldn't be things done to help the environment and certain species like the smelt.
You know, we're conservationists too.
Yeah,
I can kind of see it both sides.
We're big fans of wildlife and everything that goes along with it. So as much of that kind of stuff as we can do, great. I'd love for my tax dollars to go to that kind of stuff, but I'd also love for my tax dollars to go to people to save their homes.
For sure.
So,
and whether that's, you know, trying to help rebuild. I mean, it's just it's terrible that the insurance companies pulled out and they're catching a lot of heat. But you also got to look at it. It wasn't just one insurance company. It was tens of dozens of insurance companies.
There was a reason
out.
that they did.
And one of the big ones is with the fire risk, and probably it had a lot to do with the loss margin on claims and everything out there. When insurance companies do rate increases, especially like a big company like State Farm, they're going to look at it from a region and they're going to say, okay, this is a big fire hazard. This one isn't as much. Obviously, the big fire hazard is going to have a higher premium. Mm-hmm. And whenever you try to regulate what an insurance company can do as far as charge or, setting a premium amount for some of these things, they don't have to listen to you. And that's what they did. You got a multi-million-dollar house sitting here, and I can't raise the insurance on it. I'm not saying that insurance companies don't already charge enough. We've seen insurance premiums go through the roof, but they're their own business. They're not a government agency that you can try to regulate. If they want to charge this amount, they're going to charge that amount, and you really can't do anything about it.
Not shit you can do about it.
And if you say no, okay, we're just going to leave your state.
Yep, and that's exactly what happened.
And that's what a bunch of them did. Mm-hmm. And it just sucks because you got these multi-million-dollar houses that is going to take to rebuild it. And let's say they bought it back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, because that's what they said. A lot of it isn't, L.A. isn't just a bunch of millionaires. On the outskirts, it's just people who maybe their grandparents or whatever built the house back in the 60s and 70s, and it's just like a family place.
And are people going to want to rebuild there? I sure as hell wouldn't if it was me.
Here's my total, not really conspiracy, but my thought on what's going to happen is a lot of people are not going to be able to afford to build there, and there's going to be some sort of investor that's going to come through there. It's going to buy a bunch of it.
Pennies on the dollar.
The rich get richer scheme, just like we've seen in other places. That's what's going to happen, I feel like, because if you don't have insurance, how many normal people can just, all right, I'm going to spend $2 million on a new house?
Yeah, exactly. Not very
Especially
many.
Out there in that economy with the taxes and how much everything costs out there. You got to be making.
You're probably not going to build a badass house for $2 million out there.
No,
that's probably just to buy you a lot and put you a decent house on it.
Yeah, I mean the lots out there are probably way more expensive than what you could build a nice house out here for.
I don't know what's left out there. It's hard to say, from the outside looking in, if it would even be worth rebuilding there.
I don't know. If you don't rebuild.
If you do rebuild there, are you going to be able to find any place that can give you insurance?
Well, I mean, there won't be a claim against you, but there's going to be an area where that just burnt. Yep. I probably don't want to insure that.
But it's not like it just burns and then you're good for 10 or 20 years. Yep. It'll grow back even stronger next time.
For sure.
And because, next year it's going to be the same fire risk as it was this year.
If not worse.
Yeah.
Because usually that first or second year, that's when it comes on about the thickest.
Mm-hmm. Grows back better and gets bigger, more tender whenever it dries out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been terrible what's gone out. We're talking about different things that they could have potentially done. Obviously, we're not professionals. We're just kind of doing a little research, figuring out, what will work or what could have worked potentially. We don't know for a fact. But, obviously our thoughts and prayers are with the 25 that were killed and other people injured, everybody's family and friends. It's just terrible. What has transpired out there. You just have to, for me, I look at what are the people in charge doing. And for me, they're not doing enough for my liking.
Yeah, that's why I said I kind of wish that Trump would have hit on that a little bit more in his speech or what they're going to do, because he's got to step in. Like somebody's got to help them people out. And obviously their local government is not doing the job. So we got to step in and help them.
Yeah, no, kind of like what you were saying. It literally looks like an apocalypse out there. Like some of the
looks
pictures
like a bomb
and videos.
went off. It's crazy.
I've never seen anything like it.
You see people walking around, all them homes surrounded by just burnt down homes. It's insane.
Well, and they said, the fire had swept through, the natural wildfire had swept through, and then you had people going in there and burning people's houses, arson. People are getting arrested for it.
Yep. They said there's videos of homeless people walking around lighting shit on fire.
Just not a care in the world.
Nope. But then people are going to be held accountable for what they did?
I know some of them have been arrested.
I hope so.
They for sure need to be somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think all you can do is just say a prayer, for them people out there. I'm sure there's different organizations you can donate to that's helping people out. Hopefully they get it figured out and get back to be, hopefully, a prosperous area again, because, it's part of America. If they fail, we fail.
That's right.
And you got to have that mentality through the whole country.
For sure. For the president, for everybody.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people could benefit from looking at the world in that kind of mindset. I'm just hoping this next 4 years people can kind of come together and get back to the way it used to be before the social media and all that. And speaking of social media, I wanted to talk to you. Did you see Mark Zuckerberg on Joe Rogan?
Mm-hmm.
Did you get a chance to watch that one?
Yeah. It was interesting. I mean,
you don't know if he's trying to kiss everybody's ass or what.
Yeah, I almost wonder if he was just kind of, I don't want to say he was a puppet, but how we do not just following the majority, because he seems like he started leaning in a different direction than he always had.
For sure. I also think, when you have the federal government raining down on you, I don't think you really know what to do unless you're in that position.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty easy for us to say, well, Mark Zuckerberg is, he was the reason there was no free speech. With some of the stories that he was saying, the federal government pretty much said that they were going to put pressure on them if they didn't do anything.
Yep, they pretty much shut him down.
So
or not shut him down, but made him censor the stuff.
So, I mean, everybody can talk shit all they want.
There's got to be records of it. If there's records of it, somebody has to be held accountable.
100%.
Because it definitely it swayed the election a certain way or not.
Oh, for sure. I mean, whenever you're censoring, he was talking about, I thought it was kind of funny. He was talking about just, one instance. I guess there was a meme going around. I mean, out of all things, you're going to censor a meme. I guess it was the meme of, Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the TV, the whoop, whoop, whoop. And it had, if you received the COVID vaccine, you're entitled to this compensation, call yada, yada number. And they were like, no, we're not taking that down. That's funny. But the government wanted them to take it down.
Yeah, and that's censoring. I mean, it's not really an information type thing, but it definitely is. It's going to sway people in certain directions.
You know how many people in our area got put in Facebook jail over all the memes and shit during COVID.
God, nonstop.
Oh man, there were so many people that would post a bunch of memes and like funny pictures and videos and stuff.
One kind of interesting thing I'd read and seen, and this kind of makes some sense. He's gotten all into MMA stuff.
Yeah,
and
he's big into jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu, yeah. He's big into that. He's gotten a lot bigger and stronger, and when that happens, your testosterone goes up.
Yep.
There is studies out there that the higher level of testosterone you have, the more likelihood you have of leaning Republican.
There's a study out there?
Legitimate study. I mean, I don't have it off the top of my head, but I know for a fact I've seen them. There is studies out there that the higher your testosterone level, the more likely you are to be a Republican. Did that have a way in changing the way he thinks about things? Do you remember him before, like he's like an internet dorky dude.
I mean, you got to be able to code and create something as big as Facebook, and I guess now he owns Instagram and Meta and all that.
Now he's all jacked and he's kind of a beast.
Yeah,
looks like a different person.
Probably wouldn't want to fuck with him.
Probably not.
I mean, if you've done jiu-jitsu,
they say he's pretty good. I mean, Joe said he was pretty good, so I don't know.
Can you imagine showing up to a match and getting your ass kicked by
Mark Zuckerberg,
and everybody would be like, "You mean the geeky dorky guy that created
Facebook?" Yeah,
yeah. That's he's built different now.
I think I'd just turn around. I wouldn't even try it.
Yeah, it is
it's a wild world we're living in right now.
So many people have done complete 180s. I mean, even like you've seen Apple and, of course, Zuckerberg and all those CEOs of those tech businesses were at the inauguration.
Mm-hmm.
I just think so many people kiss whoever they have to's ass to, I guess, be on their good side. I don't really, there's a lot of comments with the Zuckerberg thing on Joe Rogan. It's like, welcome to the majority, or, you're kissing ass, joining the majority because you don't want people to, say yada, yada, yada about you. I think people can learn from certain things, and have different point of views. But I don't know, in just such a short amount of time, it's...
Yeah, I think the best way to educate something is to go through it. And, we've been through some shit the last 4 years, so...
Yep.
Could be why we're getting a little bit of an education on things.
Yeah, but I guess we'll see. I know Trump did talk about, the censorship shit that's going to be over with. So I guess we'll see what the next 4 years brings.
Hopefully nothing but good things.
We can hope.
I do know one other thing. I don't know how long we've been going for, but I know one other thing I wanted to kind of just run past you a little bit, something you probably don't know about. I didn't know about it. Do you know that in Texas it is legal to drink underage there? Now, what I mean by that is, as a parent, if you buy alcohol and give it to your kid and they're in a place where it's legal, they can drink alcohol under the age of 21.
What do you mean by a place
Legally.
that it's legal?
So bars. There's bars in Texas that you can drink underage legally if the parent buys it and hands it to the child or the minor. I don't know how you want to
That's a felony in the state of Missouri.
Yeah, exactly. That is legal in Texas. So my son's 11, and he told me this because his mom lives in Texas, and he goes down there sometimes and visits and stuff. So he was telling me this. I'm like, dude, there's no way. I'm like, that is false. You're wrong. You're 11. You don't know that shit. So he's like, oh, fine, I'll text my mom. So he texted his mom. She calls him, and she's like, yeah, it's legal down here. You can do that. I'm like, no fucking way. Like that is a federal law. There's no way. So I looked it up. Yep. Sure as hell is perfectly legal to give your kids alcohol as a minor in Texas. How you feel about that?
I didn't. Well, for one, I did not know that.
Yes,
Two, I thought it was pretty
surprising.
much. Two, I thought it was pretty much a felony in every. It had to have been a felony in every
I thought
state.
it was a federal law. I don't know.
I mean,
because they have some. Her new husband, he has some daughters that are older, and they're, I think, around that 16, 17-year-old mark, and they've gone to bars and stuff, and there's a local bar they go to all the time, and it's not just one, but there's bars down there that will allow your kid to drink if they're over 16 at the bar, but the adult has to buy it and then give it to the kid. Now, the same, drunk and disorderly, being intoxicated, out in public, that kind of stuff it's still the same. You still get a ticket for it. But like the bars that they go do down there, they said usually if it's before 9 o'clock. Now after 9 o'clock, the places down there won't let the minor drink at all.
Yeah, I mean, for sure at some point they need to be cut off.
Yeah, and I think that they're if they're kind of doing bad stuff because they're too drunk, intoxicated, just like if adult was there and was intoxicated doing stupid stuff, they can get in trouble for that too. So if you overserve somebody, basically is what I'm saying. So they have to control that too. But yep, you can take your kid 16 years old in the bar in Texas and buy them alcohol, and they can legally drink it with you and get drunk.
They're just built different down there.
That is wild.
Yeah.
I didn't believe it. I didn't think that was real.
Well, if it's a felony here, you wouldn't even, that thought process has never crossed my mind as that something like that could be possible.
Yeah, it's just 21. You think you can't drink alcohol till you're 21. Down there, it's different. I mean, everybody, all my friends drank alcohol before they're 21. It's part of being a kid in this area, especially. Like, it's just what kids do. You're going to have access to it if you want it, but it's definitely not legal.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I would like to see I wonder if they have any. How long has that been going on? Has that just?
I don't know if it's always been the law or not, but it's just. I found out about it like a week ago.
I wonder if there's been any studies if that's the case. If you can go out and your parents can buy you drinks at a bar, I wonder what the studies are. They've got to be out there if it's been around for a while. If the kid is more apt to not overly consume alcohol once they do turn 21. Because, we all kind of go through that stage. Okay, we turn 21. All right, we're going to start, we'll get into it. It's usually only lasts like a year.
Yeah, it's a short phase for most people. And some people can handle it. And, of course, you're going to have – I would think it would lean people more towards being alcoholics, but –
starting them that young?
It just gives you a longer time because, from the age of, 15, 16 years old till you're 22, 23, 24, before you really become an adult, and you start looking at life as a career, choice. And before that, you don't really think about it. And if you start drinking at a younger age, is it going to lean you towards being an alcoholic more than, I don't know.
I think you could also make the argument that it would lean you not to be an alcoholic.
Could. Maybe if you get exposed to it, maybe you see the bad sides of it earlier. I don't know.
Well, just think about it from like our point of view, like our instance growing up. I'm sure you were the same way. When you're in high school and you have a weekend where you're free and you can go drink, the amount of consumption was high.
It wasn't no casual day like having a couple drinks with the boys.
You were waking up and you're like, I'm getting
this was my moment.
Tonight.
I don't have this opportunity a lot. We're getting drunk.
Yep. So, getting and trying to be maybe a little bit secretive from your parents.
Yeah.
And just overly consuming, and a lot of people getting alcohol poisoning.
That's a good point.
And if you're down there and your parents are with you, maybe that's teaching you how to handle your alcohol correctly.
It could be, yeah. It could be, it could be more beneficial. If you look at it from that angle, it makes sense.
Don't get me wrong. It's going to come down to what kind of person the individual is. I think, there's some people, they've just kind of got that itch to just drink all the time, and they've always had it. But I don't know. I would almost think that it would teach you to drink a little bit more responsible, especially in a public setting.
Yeah, so it does have to be in like a private bar or in your home. You can't just be out walking around with a beer in your hand.
Well, if there are some public bars that you can go to that they allow it, I would almost think that may help some of those people not overly consume.
Yeah, because part of the allure of drinking when you're younger is because you're kind of doing something bad.
For sure.
You're kind of being a rebel.
The forbidden fruit.
Exactly.
Parents don't want you doing it.
There's a lot of countries that, most of the countries I would say are probably more lax on it than the United States is.
Yeah, a lot of countries are 18.
Yeah. I know I don't know if it's still that way, but when I used to go to Canada, it was either 18 or 19 because we could drink there. I think it was 18 because I remember one of the guys that was with us hadn't turned 18 yet, and we went to the bar and we were just like a few months older than him, and we all got our drinks or beers or whatever we were drinking, and they gave him a milk. They brought him a milk.
Oh, I bet he felt left out.
It was funny.
Oh, man. Nothing would be worse than everybody else drinking and they bring you out a glass of milk. Gosh, how embarrassing would that be?
That was funny. Man, we had some good times up there at the bar. Whew, a lot of fun.
I'm going to have to do a little reading up on that because like I said, I'd never even heard of that.
Interesting. You wouldn't even think that it would be a possibility as far as laws work.
Especially, we're pretty, we're not,
Missouri.
I would say Missouri's probably not as, let's say, I don't really know how to
There
put
was
it.
a list of states that kind of had the same laws, and Texas wasn't the only place.
So there was other states?
Yeah, I think there was like 10 or 11 states that had the same laws. I just don't know if it's public knowledge. Now, like Missouri was one of the strictest.
Yeah, it's even like that on tobacco products too. They just a few
21,
years ago they raised it to 21.
Yeah, shit, I've been chewing since I was like 16. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do some research on that. That's pretty interesting. Did you by chance log into your TikTok the other day and see that you couldn't scroll?
Yeah, I checked it when everybody else kind of started posting shit about it.
Didn't even last 24 hours.
No. I mean, like, I understand why they want to outlaw it because of, China being able to access all that information. And like I said, like with the whole Facebook deal, it could sway elections and, push people's opinions in a certain way if you're, setting an algorithm up to show more of a certain thing than something else. It can definitely sway elections. So I think that there definitely needs to be something done about that. Maybe more regulations on what is available for them to be able to change as far as algorithm wise and stuff. But also, from what I read about it, there was like 7 million Americans that make money off TikTok, that they pay like 7 million different people. You know how many people are like employed by Ford? It's like 150,000. So 7 million people just lost the source of income. Now, not all 7 million of the people are making a living off of it. I'm not saying that, but there's still a lot of people who lost income. And right now in this country, that is not what we need.
For sure. And so I guess there's like a owner thing of the company of TikTok itself, and there's been like some disputes on who can buy it, how much. I know Kevin O'Leary's he's a billionaire. He's one of the people that was trying to buy it, and I don't know if the sale just didn't go through.
Yeah, I seen it was like 20. They'd offered like 20 billion or 25 billion or something for it.
Which Trump came out pretty immediately and said that he was going to give him a 90-day, he was going to extend it 90 days so that way they could work on a deal so TikTok didn't have to be gone, which Trump's on TikTok. He gets a bunch of views on a lot of his videos.
He said that's why he won the majority of the young vote. But I seen where Kevin O'Leary had said that they were going to sell it, but they wouldn't sell the algorithm. So... I mean, he's like, that's fine. We'll make our own algorithm. It's not a big deal. Hopefully they get it done. I mean, a lot of people use it. I hate to see that many people lose their incomes.
Yeah.
I'd watch it and use it too.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that make a lot of money off of it.
I mean, if I never get to use TikTok again the rest of my life, I'm going to be fine. Like, it doesn't affect my life at all, but
for sure.
You still don't want it affecting other people's lives when you're talking about that big of a number.
I'd even seen where Mr. Beast he was trying to buy it.
That would make a lot of sense, yeah. He's got a ton of money.
Yeah, he's a billionaire. He's a big social media
He's
influence.
like the number one person on YouTube and TikTok now, I think.
I knew it wouldn't last very long just because of how many users are on it. Mm-hmm. And I know Trump likes TikTok. So I figured he'd come out and make a statement, and he did.
That didn't last very long.
No, it didn't. But there's people having withdrawals of it. There was a lot of posts out there showing, a lot of the younger generations, boy, they were losing their mind. They couldn't scroll TikTok.
I don't understand how he even had the pull to be able to pull that off before he was even president. How did he make that deal happen?
I have no idea.
Because the government shut it down, right? He wasn't in a government position legally at that time.
I have no clue.
Isn't there like some kind of tampering thing? I don't know.
I wouldn't have a clue.
I guess he could just do like Biden and pardon himself and his family.
And people for any future wrongdoings.
How that is legal, I have no idea.
He pardoned Anthony Fauci.
I know. How is that legal?
I don't know.
Surely Trump, there's surely something somebody's got to do.
I don't know if you can reverse a presidential pardon. I think that's the highest thing that you can get. I don't think there's any way to undo a presidential pardon.
So if they come out with, Joe Biden or Hunter Biden or some of these people was doing some stuff and some people ended up dying over it, they could just get away with it and it's not an offense?
I mean, think so.
I don't know.
I know what you mean.
Zero sense.
I know what you mean, but I don't think you can override a presidential pardon. I really don't.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've seen too, but I hope that's wrong. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, because at some point there's going to be a documentary made on Dr. Fauci and COVID. For a fact there's going to be.
Well, how many millions of people did probably died or was ill affected because of the decisions that he made?
I don't know. I'm sure at some point there's going to be a documentary, and we'll be watching it, looking back like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully learn from our mistakes and move forward in a better direction.
That's right. We got a new president in office. Hopefully we can jumpstart this economy and kind of get everything moving along again, because, you know, nobody wants to be back to the way it's been for the past 4 years. Everybody wants bigger and better things, and that's kind of what we're all hoping for as American people, and we want to see him do well, and in return for all of us to do well too.
Yeah, and I hope that he does more to bring people together than what people think, because no matter what you say, the guy wants the best for the country, because he doesn't need this. He doesn't have to have this. His legacy was set. You know, he's got all the money he'll ever need. His family's got all the money they'll ever need. There's a good chance of them being able to, you know, run for office without him being president this time. He didn't need that. He wants to do it because he sees that there's a need for it.
Yeah. Only time will tell. We got 4 years, and we'll see what him and his administration can do for the next 4 years, and we'll go from there.
All we can do is sit back and watch.
That's right.
We voted, so now we got to see what happens.
Yep.
And if we're wrong, we're wrong. But I think we try to do the best we can with what situation we were given.
And hopefully this next election in another 4 years, we have some younger, sharper minds.
For sure.
Because there's got to be other more qualified candidates.
Think J.D. Vance will run for president next time if this term goes well?
I would think he almost has to.
I do too.
I'm anxious to kind of see what the Democratic Party come out with on who.
They got to get somebody.
And after this wildfire thing, I don't think there's any chance in hell Gavin Newsom can
hell
do it.
No, not a chance. No,
he would probably lose the California vote.
I don't think they know who they're going to go with. You know, Bernie Sanders ain't going to be, he ain't going to be that guy. They're going to have to find somebody.
I guess only time will tell. But I think that is going to be a wrap for episode number 3 here on the Something to Talk About podcast. Thank you all for taking a look and listen, and we're going to try to start putting this out on some other platforms besides just YouTube, maybe do some shorts on some different social media platforms.
Yeah, we're going to, we haven't really promoted a lot of stuff yet. We're going to try to get some material out there before we actually start promoting the stuff. But, yeah, if you find this, hopefully when we get this kind of going, you can start liking, sharing, telling people about it. Hopefully we get some of the little bugs worked out that we're trying to fix, maybe some better audio, lighting, that kind of stuff.
And even throw some comments down there too, because
what you want to hear or what we need to change or fix.
Yeah, or just kind of your opinions on some of the things that we talk about. We continue to learn and love to hear people's feedback. So get into the comment section, and we'll see if we can't type back and kind of express the way we feel, or talk to you in the comment section. But all right, that's going to do it for episode number 3, Something to Talk About podcast. Thank you all for tuning in.
See y'all later. Take care.